Hello friends, let's get to know some of the interview questions for job as OSI PI Administrator. This would be helpful for someone in the experience bracket of 1 to 5 years experience. Let's get into the questions. First question, what is a PI system? The PI system connects sensor-based data, operations, and the people who rely on data to manage process efficiency, asset health, quality, and resource management. The PI system works through server-based technology and makes historical and real-time data instantly accessible to users wherever they are. As a result, you will be able to achieve end-to-end visibility across the enterprise of the data. Next question, explain the architecture of a PI system. A simple architecture of a PI system consists of data sources, which can be IT monitor, process control, DCS, PLC, SCADA, OPC, relational database, or HTML web service, or a text or a flat files, and also it can be a PI to PI interfaces. From data source, it is collected through a PI interface. OSIsoft provides about 450 plus interfaces and 20 plus PI connectors. The interface can be a single interface or a failover interface, and the data flows into the PI data archive. It can also be a single server or a data collective, and the data is stored in the PI data archive, which is in the demilitarized zone. From there, the data can be accessed through client applications like PI process book or a PI data link. Also, through a thin client through PI Vision, the data can also be accessed through a internet. This explains the architecture of a simple PI system. What is a OPC server? OPC is a software interface standard that allows Windows programs to communicate with industrial hardware devices. List some OPC servers. Some of the commonly used OPC servers are Matricon OPC Server, Kepware OPC Server. List some of the OPC client tools to check instrument values. We have some of the client tools like PI OPC client tools, Kepware, Matricon, etc. Sometimes there will be a question like, have you configured DCOM? What is the purpose of DCOM? Using DCOM configuration tool, DCOM configuration can be done. DCOM is primarily used for remote procedure call systems to enable communication between COM-based applications over the network. What PI interfaces have you used to connect to hardware? This is a common question. What are the different types of PI interfaces which you have used? So you can tell OPC DA interface, OPC HDA interface, PI universal file loader, that is also called PI UFL, PI to PI, PI relational database management system, etc. are the commonly used PI interfaces to connect to the data archive. What is the PI tool used to configure interfaces? We have the tool interface configuration utility to configure interfaces. What is PI buffering? The interface node uses buffering to prevent data loss when PI data archive is not available, and later can buffer data to multiple independent servers and PI server collectives. What are the different Unilnt failover types? There are three Unilnt failover types: hot failover, warm failover, cold failover. In hot failover, which is the most resource intensive mode, both the primary and backup interface instances are collecting data. No data is lost during failover unless both the primary and backup interface nodes fail together, but the data source carries a double workload. In the warm failover configuration, the backup interface does not actively collect data. The backup interface loads the list of PI points and stands by ready to start collecting data as soon as the primary interface fails or stops collecting data for any reason. If the backup interface assumes the role of primary, it starts collecting data. Some data loss can occur in a warm failover configuration. Thirdly, cold failover. The backup instance does not connect with the data source until it becomes primary. This delay almost always causes some data loss but imposes no load at all on the data source. Cold failover is desirable if a data source can support only one client, or if you are using redundant data sources and the backup data source cannot accept connections. Here the common example would be an RDBMS interface. Give some interface health points. There are various interface health points which we can configure. Some of them are heartbeat, device status, IO rate, etc. The below table lists standard status strings. 0, the interface is working properly and reading or writing data. 10, the interface is connected to the device but not receiving data. 50, the interface is attempting to force failover. This message does not include a string. This message maps to 95. 90, the interface is starting but not connected to the device. 95, there is a communication error with the device. 99, the interface is shutting down. Next question. What are common dependent services for interface? The common dependent service when we configure the interface is going to be TCP/IP, and if you want PI buffer subsystem, also sometimes you use PINet manager. These are the common dependent services for an interface. Provide an overview of new event processing in PI data archive. Here we have to provide how a new event processing in PI data archive happens. Starting, PI interface collect data from the data source and pass them on to the server in the form of events. Interface completes the following steps. Get data and it creates an event. Perform exception testing to determine if event is significant. Send significant events to PI data archive and discard the rest. If buffering is configured, save the events on disk in case PI data archive is unavailable. Then the event goes to the PI snapshot subsystem. The PI snapshot subsystem completes the following steps. Get a new event and make this event the new snapshot value. If the new event is out of order, send it directly to the event queue without performing any compression testing. Otherwise, perform compression testing between the old and new events. Send significant events to the event queue and discard the rest. After snapshot, the event goes to the event queue, and from event queue it goes to the archive. The PI archive subsystem reads data from the event queue. PI archive subsystem completes the following steps. Read events out of the event queue, validate and store events in the write cache, periodically move data from the write cache into the archive files. Once the data is stored in the archive files, it will be accessible to the end users through a client applications. Next question. What is the tool used to manage the PI data archive server? The commonly used or the only tool we have is the PI system management tool, also commonly called PI SMT. What is a collective in a PI data archive server? A PI collective is two or more replicated PI servers that collect data concurrently. Collectives are part of the high availability environment. When the primary PI data archive in a collective becomes unavailable, a secondary collective member node seamlessly connects to collect and provide data access to your PI clients. List some of the important attributes of a tag. There are more than 50 plus attributes for a PI tag. Some of the important attributes you can list like point class, point source, point type, digital state, compression, compression deviation, exception deviation, and so forth. List the data type available for a tag. All right. So with respect to the data types available for a tag, we have digital, we have a float 64, float 32, int 32, int 16, blob, that is binary large object, and string. What are the attributes location 1 to location 5 OPC DA interface? For this question, you have to explain all the locations starting from location 1 to location 5. With respect to OPC DA, location 1 specify the OPC interface instance ID. Location 2 is used for a data type other than the default for the PI tag data type. Location 3 can be polled, advise, or output or a trigger tag. Location 4 specifies the scan class. Location 5, it's an optional deadband value for an advise tag. Which firewall port should be opened for PI server or PI data archive to properly function? The port will be 5450 for PI data archive. Next question. Which firewall port should be opened for PI AF server? For PI AF server, the port is 5457 and 5459. Which firewall port should be opened for client connection to PI analysis service? For PI analysis service, it will be port 5463. Which firewall ports should be opened for all PI notifications feature to be functional? For client to PI notification scheduler 1.x, it will be port 5458. Client to PI notification service 2.x, it will be port 5468. Which firewall ports should be opened for all PI notifications email delivery channel? The default port will be 25 and that can be changed in the configuration. What are the authentication methods for PI data archive? The authentication methods for PI data archive are Windows authentication, PI trust, and PI user accounts login. What is authentication and what is authorization? So authentication is about validating your credentials such as username, user ID, and password to verify your identity. Authorization is the process to determine whether the authenticated user has access to the resource. What are PI identities? PI identities is authentication method through Windows security. What is PI trust? PI applications uses trust to provide access to pre-approved network entities. A trust enables a user to access PI resource based on IP address. What is PI API based connections? The PI application programming interface, that is also called a PI API, provides a common programmatic interface to PI information from the point database, the archive, and PI tables, as well as providing utilities for data collection interfaces and user application development. What is the purpose of the firewall? The common purpose of the firewall is to provide security feature that allows the PI network manager to control access to the PI server at the IP network address level. System administrators or the PI administrators can use the PI firewall to allow or deny specific computers to connect. What is a digital state? Digital state translate numeric PI point value into string data and allow you to associate PI points with a discrete status or state. How do you move or unregister archive files? To move or reprocess an archive file, you must unregister the archive, make your changes, and then re-register the file. You cannot unregister a primary archive. The procedure is under System Management Tools, you will be selecting the operations. Under operations, you will be selecting the archives. The archive tool lists all the archives registered on the selected server. Select the archive file you want to unregister and click the Unregister Selected Archive button. The archive tools removes the archive from the list. List some of the PI services or PI systems. So there are various PI subsystems which are running on the PI data archive. So some of the common PI subsystems or the service or PI archive subsystem, PI backup subsystem, PI snapshot subsystem, the PI AF link subsystem, the PI SQL subsystem, and etc. What are other status flags for PI data? So you know PI data as a value and also got a timestamp. So along with this, it has got three more status flags like questionable, substituted, annotated. So questionable indicates that there is some reason to doubt the accuracy of the value. Substituted used to indicate that the value has been changed from its original value. Annotated indicates that there is a comment about a value. What are event frames in PyAF? Capturing important events in process and collecting relevant data around these events can help analyze why they occurred. What are asset analytics and notifications? So asset analytics is a feature in Pi Asset Framework that you can use to create and manage analysis. An analysis reads values of PyAF attributes, performs calculations, and writes results to other attributes. Notifications is the feature in Pi Asset Framework that you use to create and manage notification rules. Notification rules are the mechanism by which users are alerted for a response in real time for conditions that signal events of interest. What is element template? Element template is configured to ensure consistent definitions for elements in asset structure. What are different analysis type? So we have different analysis type in AF. So it's expression, rollup, event frame generation, and SQC. So in expression, calculates one or more output values from specified functions, operators, and input values. In rollup, calculates standard statistical functions for a group of selected attributes. This group is selected from attributes on an element or from the set of all attributes on its subelements. Event frame generation starts or ends event frame based on specified conditions, and SQC uses statistical quality control, also called SQC, methods to monitor that attribute values lie within predetermined boundaries. What are different scheduling type for analysis? We have two different types of scheduling type for analysis, that is event triggered and periodic. Event triggered is scheduling evaluations occurs based on events, with periodic scheduling evaluation occurs based on clock time. What are different data reference? We have different data reference for like formula, PyPoint array, string builder, table lookup, URI builder. List some of the developer technologies. There are various developer technologies in OSIsoft, and the common ones are the PyAF SDK, the PySQL product, that is PyOLEDB Enterprise, and PyWeb API, that is REST based, and PyOPC servers. List OSIsoft visualization tools. So we have various visualization tools provided by OSIsoft to look into the archive data. We have PyVision, PyDataLink, PyProcessBook, PyManualLogger, PyActiveView, PyBatchView, and PyWebParts. What is a PyVision? So as you know, PyVision is a web-based application. PyVision is an intuitive web client visualization tool that delivers fast, easy, and secure access to all your Pi system data. There are multiple benefits of PyVision. The common benefits are you can access Pi system data from any device and from anywhere, since it is a web-based application, and it combines PyVision displays with other web applications to gain even more insights and drive new innovations, allows users a quick and easy way to share, display, and encourages collaboration across the enterprise, gives user secure access to the data they need with one simple installation and no special software on users' machines since it works on a browser. What is out of order events? So PyArchive subsystem receives events from PySnapshot subsystem. If the timestamp of the event is older than the last event in the target record, it is considered an out of order event. What is the purpose of PI API Snap utility? So with API Snap utility, we can check the snapshot values. How to view the current status and configuration of the buffer. The buffer can be checked using the PyBuffSS-CFG. Let's look into some of the multiple choice questions. These are from OSIsoft website. What operating system version is not supported for PI Data Archive 2016? The options are Windows Server 2012 R2 64-bit, Windows Server 2012 64-bit, Windows Server 2008 R2 64-bit, and Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1 64-bit. So it will be Windows Server 2008 R2 64-bit is not supported in PI Data Archive 2016. What is the correct order of installing the PI system? PI Data Archive followed by PI AF Server, PI AF Client, PI AF Different Applications, or SQL Server, PI AF Server, PI Data Archive, PI AF Client, PI AF Different Applications, or PI Data Archive, SQL Server, PI AF Server, PI AF Client, PI AF Different Applications. The answer would be SQL Server. First install the SQL Server, then followed by PI AF Server, followed by PI Data Archive, PI AF Client, PI AF Different Applications. How many SQL Server database does the AF application require for a non-high availability? At a minimum, we would require one SQL Server. That's the correct answer. Where should you install PI Analysis Service for best calculation performance? The options are on the PI Data Archive, on the PI AF Server, on a dedicated machine, on the interface machine. We can install PI Analysis Service even on PI Data Archive or a PI AF Server, but the best practice would be to be installed on a dedicated machine. If at all you are having many calculations, millions of calculations, you can have a dedicated machine for better performance. Which of the following is a recommended post-install task? Post-installation task is very important once you install all your PI Data Archive server. So the options are view the PI Data Archive installation log files. Yes, we have to view the installation log files for any errors. Configure the PI system backups. Yes, we have to configure the PI system backups. Configured hardening measures. Yes, we have to do the hardening measures. Lower user account privileges. Yes, we have to lower the user account privileges. So all of the above would be the right answer for this question. What application needs to be configured on the interface node to help protect from data loss? So the options are PI buffer subsystem, firewall, PI SDK, exception. Their answer would be PI buffer subsystem should be configured on the interface to prevent data loss. Which of the following backup tasks are recommended? All right. Having the PI admin verify successful backups each day. Yes. Moving the daily backup to a remote location in case of hardware failure. Yes. As every day a backup is taken and that backup has to be moved to a remote location in case of a hardware failure. True. Creating a regular scheduled backup task post installation. We have to create a regular scheduled backup task. And so the answer would be all of the above. What applications should be configured to connect to the data archive with trust? Is it vision, interfaces, process book, custom applications using AF SDK? It will be interfaces. What port is used by PI clients connecting to the PI data archive? 5458, 54321, 314-5450. PI Data Archive Server uses port 5450. Since what version of the data archive has integrated Windows authentication been supported? The options are 3.4.375.99, 3.4.380.36, 2012 3.4.390 or 2016 3.4.400. It will be 3.4.380.36. Which of the following is required to define an even frame? So to define an even frame, we would require context, we would require a name and a start and end time. So the option would be all of the above. What tools can you use to view even frames? Check all that apply. We can view even frames in Data Link, PI System Explorer and PI Vision. Which of the following is not a default EF attribute data reference? Formula, table lookup, PI point, value. The answer would be value. To configure a PI tag with data from an OPC server, what tag attribute is used to specify the point or location in the data source? Data source location, location 1, instrument tag, point source. We would be using instrument tag to specify the point or location in the data source. Which of the following commands would install the daily backup schedule task after browsing to cd/d %PI server %ADM? The options are PI backup -scheduled daily, PI backup -schedule, PI backup -install PI backup, PI backup PI backup -install. The answer would be PI backup PI backup install. Which of the following is not true about the PI buffer subsystem? So the question is, which are the options not true about PI buffer subsystem? The PI buffer subsystem is automatically configured on every PI interface node. No, that is not true. It is not automatically configured. The PI buffer subsystem does not just buffer data from a PI interface. It can buffer data from any application which is writing data to a PI data archive. That would be true. The PI buffer subsystem marks data for compression as it sends data to the data archive. That is true. The PI buffer subsystem acts as a reservoir holding the data in a buffer queue file when a connection is broken to the PI data. That is true. The not true option is the PI buffer subsystem is automatically configured on every PI interface node. That's right. True or false? Exception works by removing values that are not changing with time or values whose change is insignificant and below the instrument accuracy threshold. That is true. Where do you set the scan class on an OPC tag? The scan class would be on location 4, as we have already discussed about location 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. True or false? You can use asset analytics in AF to calculate forecast data using future data from the data archive. This is very much possible. That's true. True or false? The units of measure can be automatically converted in client applications to see the value in different units. It is very much possible. We can convert one unit to another unit. True. Which of these relative time strings would return an error? Y minus 1y. So that would be yesterday minus 1 year, t minus 1t, star minus 12d, Monday plus 82 hours. So here it would be t minus 1t is the error. When you set exception max xmax to 10 minutes, what does that mean? After 10 minutes, any value that fell within the exception deadband will be discarded by the archive. Not true. After 10 minutes, the PI interface sends the next new value to PI data archive, regardless of whether the new value is different from the last reported value. That is true. Every 10 minutes, the PI data archive cleans up the interface reported values that do not meet the exception requirements. That is false. So the answer is after 10 minutes, the PI interface sends the new value to PI data archive regardless of whether the new value is different from the last reported value. Which of the AF security statement is incorrect? Deny settings override and any granted allow permissions. If you want to edit an element, you need write permissions on this particular element, but do not need write permissions on the database level. That is correct. Administrator privileges at the server level provides access to every object regardless of their security settings. That is false. So the answer would be if you want to edit an element, you need write permissions on the particular element, but do not need write permissions on the database level. Which of the following is true about AF templates? Templates help ensure consistency in the creation and management of the AF elements. True. When changes are made to the template, elements created using the template are automatically updated. That is true. AF elements gives you the ability to create tags on the PI servers, which is also true. And the answer would be all of the above. Which of the following is not a possible data flow in the PI system? We already seen how data flows in the PI system. It starts from the data source, interface, data archive, process book. That is very much possible. Data source, connector, data archive or AF and moves to PI vision. That is possible. Data source, data archive, interface, process book. That is not a possible option. That is not possible. It flows from data source, interface, data archive, process book, PI vision, etc. And data source, interface, data archive, PI vision. So the wrong option would be data source, data archive, interface, process book. Which of the following statement is correct about the PI security audit tool? Automatically updates and changes PI system security setting. That is not possible. It cannot automatically update the PI system security settings. Compares the existing security settings to best practices. That's true. And all of the above. It compares the existing security settings to best practices. Which of the PI developer technologies does not allow you to access data from the AF server? We can use PI Web API, we can use PI OLEDB Enterprise, we can use the AF SDK, but we cannot use PI SDK. What can be used to generate event frames and in turn trigger notifications? We can use custom AF SDK applications to trigger notifications, event frame generator, EFGen, manual creation, asset analytics, all of the above. All of the above would be the answer. What are the built-in AF identities that ship with AF 2.7 and later? The identities are administrators, engineers, world, and also we have owner. So that will be administrator, engineers, world. Which of the following port is not used in the PI system? 5450, 5405, 5457, 5463. The answer would be 5405 is the only port which is not used in the PI system. Thank you, folks. Hope you had a good time learning about PI system and the interview questions for the PI system administrator. Thank you very much.